right. Welcome to the Whiskey Vault. I'm Daniel Whittington, Chancellor of Wizard Academy and Whiskey Marketing School. And this is Hidden Drams Day, a whiskey that I wanted to talk to you about that you're probably never going to get. Or get your hands on. I think this one's sold out, unless you can find a store that still has one. This one is Balcones. Now, let me say right up front, I love everybody at Balcones. I mean, I don't know all of them, but I love the people I know at Balcones. I consider them very good friends, and the most important human in my world is at Balcones. And so, I can't possibly be objective. I'm bound to love it, but I really wanted to talk about this one because it's so nerdy cool. I would be talking about it whether I knew anybody there or not. And look at that presentation of that bottle. I gotta be so careful with this. This was released as a part of their 15th anniversary. They did a whole 4 releases, 3 whiskeys and a rum, if I remember correctly. And I bought all the bottles for the vault. So they're in the vault. And I'm just making sure there's nothing that I'm missing. No. Even the inside wrapper on this is amazing. Okay, so this is the Balcones Live Oak. And this is the coolest story. What I'm holding in front of me, oh wow, I haven't opened this one yet. What I'm holding in front of me is maybe the most Texan whiskey ever made. Definitely the most Texan malt ever made. But arguably the most Texan whiskey ever created. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about it. So, I don't know if you know this, but Balcones was instrumental in getting Texas farmers to start creating whiskey quality level barley so that they could source barley from the state of Texas. And now there are barley farmers and malt houses, and all the whiskey distilleries in Texas get to benefit from Texas malt. Balcones releases those, and when they focus only on Texas malt, it's the High Plains single malt, which I probably have a bottle of somewhere over here. But this is our backup section because I love the High Plains malt. But this is even more Texan. What happened was, ages ago, they had some live oak trees that were cut down, and they decided, what if we converted these live oak trees pieces into barrel staves and made barrels out of Texas live oak? So they cut them up into chunks, and they carried all of it up to the roof of their building in downtown Waco and stacked it on the roof. For 3 years, they yard aged it on the roof of the building. And then they took all of that wood and they sent it to ISC, Independent Stave Cooperage, and Independent Stave Company, and asked them to cooper barrels out of it. Now, I might be a little off on this part because I'm going from my memory of talking with them about it, but they sent them enough wood that they should have gotten several dozen barrels out of it. And instead, they got less than a dozen. And also, they got a comment from Independent Stave going like, we don't ever want to do this again. Those pieces of wood were a pain in the to work with, and they kept cracking, and it was miserable, but they did send them back a small amount of live oak barrels. And they filled that with Texas barley, single malt. And then they checked it really quickly, like within 6 months, I think. And immediately on that first check, they went, whoa, no, holy cow, this is so much live oak, so astringent and so dark and so everything. And like, there's no way we can release this. Some of the people trying it were like, this is really interesting. And so they emptied that, and then they moved it into the can. They refilled these barrels multiple times. So this is first, second, and third fill. So they took whiskey from bourbon barrels and put it back into the live oak. They took they moved whiskey around, and they made use of these live oak barrels in multiple ways. And then they blended back into it a percentage of the first fill live oak to make sure that they could capture the essence of what those live oak barrels presented. And I'll tell you, Texas trees, Texas yard aged, coopered, and filled with Texas barley whiskey, that's about as Texas as it gets. Oh. So first what you will find is the nose, immediately Balcones. The classic trademark dead center Balcones profile is living in the background there that I think comes from how they handle their fermentations, unique to them, and that unique still that they have that's unlike anything on the planet. But there's also this note that can only be described, for me anyway, as camping in Texas. It just smells like Texas. It is, if you grew up in a Texas summer hiking in the woods, it gets really hot. It's going to be 98, 97, and you're walking in the woods and you're walking on like limestone broken rock, and the trees are a mix of juniper and oak and all these other species, but everything smells hot. And I don't know if you've ever experienced woods smelling hot, but come to Texas and hike in the Texas woods in the summer, and you'll be like, it smells hot. And it's different than the desert. The desert has its own smell. This is overheated trees and earth and overheated grass, and it smells like taking a walk through overly dried vegetation in the woods in Texas. And in the background, a little hint of Texas rivers that are carved into limestone holes in the ground. And that really mineral heavy smell of mineral forward spring well aquifer water. And then that's the outside edge. In the dense middle of this nose, it's full of fruit and just beautiful sweetness. Almost a dark note that can come across as a little bit in the direction of dark chocolate, but it's not, doesn't quite reach that. But like a Mexican cocoa, kind of a Mexican chocolate spicy powder. But really just dry petrichor and dried woods, limestone water. And it drinks with the soft fruit sweetness that then sort of unrolls into that really astringent, tannic, not green, but grassy and wooden and antique wood oil, almost a varnish. It's a lot of fun. Truly unique. Truly cool. I don't know what their plans are. I asked Gabe about it, and he said something about like still wanting to try to not just this be the last time that we ever get to see what live oak tastes like. I don't know what their plans are, but I hope we get to experience more of it. One of the favorite things that I heard Jared say at the tasting that I got to go to for this was he said, I always watched all these distilleries do really localized projects, like Westland was doing Washington oak, like Pacific Northwest oak, and they were coopering. It's the Gariana releases. And he said, I always, when I tried it, it was always like we blended a little bit of or we finished in this Gariana barrel, and I always wanted it to be a pure experience of the local wood terroir. And it wasn't until we started working with our own that we realized why they didn't do that, because while it is remarkable and interesting, it is not consumer friendly for the vast majority of the whiskey drinking population. You've got to blend it into something that's consumable by the general whiskey population while also maintaining the qualities that unique maturation brought to the table. And I thought that was a really interesting sort of grown-up awareness of a situation, a little maturity of like, yeah, the nerd in me wanted to just drink live oak whiskey. The whiskey maker who's making things for other people realized we need to blend this into a consumable product while it maintains its live oak identity. And I think that's a really cool thing. And I think that's what makes it not just an interesting but hard to drink whiskey, but an interesting and a beautiful to drink whiskey. And I mean, this sounds like an infomercial for Balcones Live Oak. I just can't help it. The nerd in me is so fascinated by this. I have told more people in my life about this. I had another bottle. It's gone now because I poured it for everyone in the vault over and over. I was like, you got to hear the story. I've probably told this story 50 times at this point to random groups of strangers who are all like, oh yeah, sounds interesting. And I just wouldn't shut up about it because it's so nerdy cool. Will you like it? No idea. It is distinct. Even if you like Balcones, this might be too wood varnish oil and dry for you. But it is truly an interesting exploration of 100% Texas product from start to finish. And I hope you get the chance to try it sometime. If you're here in the class sometime, tell me. I'll pour it for you. Cheers to you. And I'm really glad you're here. If you want 100% grain to video YouTube, Texas YouTube experience, like and subscribe.